Thank you so much. Awesome work today, though, crew. It's been an incredible, incredible day. And just so I get an understanding from the audience, who has deployed or is building now or will deploy or build over the next year a voice agent in their world? All right, some good hands in the audience. I work with this stuff every day, working with ElevenLabs. We are a voice AI company, and it's so exciting to be here. I'm going to talk a little bit about today on just some of the challenges that are faced in the market, some of the evolution of voice technology, and we'll talk about some of the lessons learned from many, many deployments in the voice AI space, and then we'll close it out with some go-to-market lessons, since there are some founders in the audience, as well as a bit of a demo. So let's get after it here. If we can put the slides up, if you all don't mind, please. We now live in this instant resolution economy where you all are very used to getting the news right away. You can go to social media, get instant response on anything, including Fellows Forum or whatever. It's like you want answers, they're right there at your fingertips. And then, of course, in the consumer land, we can push a button and get an Uber within 1 minute. You can get anything delivered to you in quick order. Our customers are used to the same level of expectations, which are rising over time, right? Same thing in our work circles. I mean, Slack, Teams, you're just like a ping away, where you don't have to wait for someone, to get an email or get out of their meeting. It's just immediate response and gratification. But that is not translated into voice AI. I love the content today. There's some really good, just thoughts and leaders really across the agent space. But when it comes to voice AI, these experiences, we've all been there in these like really clunky, unreliable solutions. You're like hammering zero or shouting representative at the phone. And it's because the technology historically has just not been there, really robotic voices. And then there's latency. I mean, if you have a chatbot that takes 10 seconds to get an answer, maybe that's okay, and you still walk through it because you're doing something else. In a conversation, you can't take 10 seconds to respond, right? Latency really, really matters even more so. And of course, nobody wants a robotic voice. Like, it has to have emotion and character if you're going to have some real response there. So this real evolution that we've seen from frustration to resolution is, it started with the push one for support, and then we moved into more of a rule-based if-then scenario. Then we moved to natural language processing and understanding where the technology could understand the general topic that you want to talk about, but it couldn't do the most important part, and that's take action or give you that answer. And that's really the world that we're moving to with voice agents, where things can take an action for you. And there's been a lot of talk about voice. I love this space. So Jeff Bezos says the future will be a world where, of voice-first interfaces. And then the next platform will be voice, is what Zuck says. You can see what Satya's chimed in on as well about moving to this era of voice. And my favorite one here, Andrew Ng, legendary, AI scientist, leader, coach, and also founder of Coursera. Voice is the new keyboard. There's a reason why podcasts and audiobooks have taken off over the last 5 years. We don't need to be tied to our mice and keyboards. And the idea that you can have conversations with technology, with companies, with people just through your voice, I think is really captivating. So we're really moving from this old world of just ultimately pressing one for support and a robotic experience to a real human-like conversation. And that expands far beyond support. It's in day-to-day interactions in a lot of different capacities we'll talk about. But I've never seen anyone raise their hands to this question. I'm curious if this is going to change. Does anyone like hold time? It's like, I don't think I've ever seen a hand for that question, because we just deserve better as customers that want this instant answers. So reliable and end-to-end outcomes is really a shift from these pre-scripted, very robotic interactions to multilingual, multimodal experiences that can answer questions and take action. But it's not just about voice. It's about control. Some of you work for very large enterprises, some for startups that still want control and to make things stay on the rails. So having that real consistent performance that is reliable and stays on guard and on rails, that you can script and navigate how you like, and then it is real time, that can actually give you an answer and have a conversation and get things done and move to the next topic and jump to the next agent or the next language, and just to feel that progress. That is what customers expect these days. And of course, having it in a voice that is worthy of your brand, I think, and talk a lot about with enterprises, what is the brand experience that you want? And I think there's a lot to be said on voice strategy. So that is ultimately what the magic is when this comes to implementation, the orchestration. It's not just the voice and the TTS, the text-to-speech, or the prompting, or the actual understanding of the ASR, the speech-to-text. It's like, how is this all orchestrated together to do the right tool calls, the right RAG, have the right guardrails? All of that is very, very complex. Of course, it needs to integrate with the systems of the organization that you're working with, and that ultimately is a lot of technology in terms of just integration and meeting companies where they are. And then, of course, deployment and testing. We'll talk more about that in a second. But that's where we come in, ultimately, at ElevenLabs. Our co-founders both grew up in Poland. They're best friends from Poland, and still to this day, in Polish, Oscar-winning films produced out of Hollywood will be dubbed into Polish by a single male voice actor. So men, women, and children voices are all dubbed by the same person for the entire movie. This is how Maddie and Piotr grew up watching these films, and they said, this is terrible. There has to be a better way, and there has to be a way to match the character of the voice with technology. And so it was an immediate hit with the initial text-to-speech and voices, because they found there's so much more that customers are wanting out of voice and voice AI. Since then, it's been a wild ride of 3 years, and we've extended from just text-to-speech and a whole range of voice options I'll talk about, to an entire voice audio platform that is trusted today by many enterprises. Maybe I'll take just a moment to tell one story. So we had the great pleasure of working with Epic Games, and of course the Disney organization and the James Earl Jones estate, to bring Darth Vader's voice into Fortnite. So millions of people could have a conversation with Darth Vader at the same time across the world. This was such a cool project to work on and play a small part in, but they can't screw up Darth Vader's voice. Like that, there would be a revolt. And so that quality bar of like a really, really high quality voice, as well as the ability to scale, across these millions of conversations at the same time. And that's the kind of experience that just wasn't possible before. So if you think about how voice can play in that type of interaction in an entirely new customer experience, it's pretty cool. And I will say, this is the first time my kids thought what I did was cool when they were having a conversation with Darth Vader in Fortnite. They're like, all right, Dad, that is pretty cool. But so many great stories that really are across, I would say, technology, learning and education and training, media and entertainment. There's just, customer support. There's so many wonderful use cases. And we've got, over 1,000 enterprise deployments that are, we've learned a lot through our field deployment engineering model, as well as working with this groundbreaking research. It's so much fun to see what you all are building with this type of technology. So I'm going to run through a few lessons learned, and then we'll jump into a little bit of the tech under the hood as well. Voice to voice, really cool in theory, and we're seeing a lot of research teams, ElevenLabs included, are really working on what we think is a viable option for the future there. But today, every single large enterprise production I've seen uses the cascading method of speech to text, and then LLM and text to speech. And these models are getting really good at latency and being able to talk between and that orchestration. And ultimately, that gives you way more control today for control metrics and ultimately reliability. Latency is, of course, extremely important. So as we think through that cascade, the LLM layer is usually the longest part of the latency. So we find cascading LLMs as well helps, because if you're 4 seconds into a conversation and the LLM hasn't responded, that's not good. Maybe there was some error in some way, shape, or form. So having backup LLMs so you don't leave the customer hanging is really, really helpful there. I will say voice quality matters a lot. So encourage you all to have a voice strategy for what is that voice I want of the product I'm building, the experience that I want, or the brand that I represent, because there's a lot of value there. We've seen some hard ROI for sure. Testing. Don't just be in a very quiet scenario with one voice and one user. Testing really should represent our mixed cultures and languages and realities of background noise and dialects and intonations and ums and ahs. So that can drive strong ROI as well. Native multilingual agents can also really just drive delight. If you start with one language, you should be able to flip to another language if your user's speaking that other language. We've seen a lot of value there. Knowledge bases can be messy, so it really helps if you can have them as clean as possible when you're bringing that information into a voice agent, as we saw with the previous sessions on like that data underneath really does matter. Start small, iterate quickly, focus on the workflow, not just the agent, and task-specific agents. They can perform way better. We've seen a lot of like supervisor models where you get kind of a supervisor agent that then passes you down to different agents with more specific and deeper expertise. And then of course, find the right partner who can support you on your build, buy, or in between decisions. There were a lot of founders, so I was asked to like talk about go-to-market a little bit. Hey, we could spend many hours on this topic. I love this stuff. And you know, after 11 years at Google, post-military, and then 6 years at a startup with a year and a half being at ElevenLabs, I deeply believe in these four, but we could talk about a lot more as well. Hire the right team. There's nothing more important than really being able to trust and have people that can run and collaborate. Strategy is eaten for breakfast by culture, as we all know. And then on that strategy, hey, ICP work never stops. The ideal customer profile. Who are you going after? Who are you building for? Who are you delighting your customers? We saw at ElevenLabs, it's really, really helpful to ultimately have a PLG motion with our business to be able to then get that rapid iteration, get testing, get feedback to the product team, understand where we're landing from a go-to-market perspective. But ICP work never stops. Always thinking about this. And then execution. If you're building, you should be shipping product. If you're selling, you should be shipping revenue. We should be all influencing one of those two things, if not both of them at all times. That execution speed is super important. I think speed might be our only moat in this era of AI. And then just keep that feedback loop really tight. We should all be learning and flexible and adapt. So with that, I've got lots more to show you, but I do want to ultimately get to the technology for just a few minutes. This was the prompt that I set for that the initial announcement. You can see now you can play with the emotions. This is our new V3 model. I said this fast, that slow, caps and faster, shouter, etc. You can whisper, laugh. There's so many things you can do to really convey the emotion for your brand that you would want. Also, I'll just pause for a second and say on voices, being able to like clone Jensen's voice for his keynotes at NVIDIA that he then translates, into Mandarin to resonate with that audience. There's so many wonderful use cases for taking a voice that whether you want to clone or create it out of thin air or use one of our 7,000 voices that we have in our library where we've partnered with voice actors and are giving them a cut in this. There's so many just wonderful options here to be able to say, okay, I want to choose out of these 32 languages. Let's go ahead and just pick English. I won't go with any accent. And we'll just see, okay, what are some of the top voices here used in English? We'll listen to a couple.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're talking about all the latest news, trends, and celebrity gossip. Let's get into it.
And we'll do one more.
I think this is a really nice way to just talk naturally together, talk plainly.
All right, so you get the idea on these vast range of voices, and maybe you want a Vietnamese voice or with this Spanish dialect, and then it's conversational, or maybe you want something that's like more performant for advertising. Lots of options there. And then under the hood, we can basically say, okay, here are the languages I want of the agent. here's my first message, prompt, etc. And then, of course, we support all sorts of LLM flexibility. What we found in a lot of these deployments was we were taking our voices and our text-to-speech, and then people were getting really stuck on like the orchestration, the turn-taking, the interruption. Those problems are very hard, and ultimately, being able to have that LLM flexibility, we've seen provide a lot of value. So we work with all the Gemini, GPT, Anthropic models, even custom models. So you can bring your own, RAG or fine-tuned LLM, and we can do the audio orchestration on top of it, and be able to, pretty rapidly get a prototype MVP with you, and then do some testing for further use. Of course, tool calls, super important, and we can go very deep there. Integrations, we can go deep on as well with MCP servers, et cetera. Also, just want to show that there are workflows here that are really important to be able to say, okay, pass to this agent for this purpose, escalate to a human agent in these contexts. These are working pretty well for us. I can go very deep on all the evaluation and testing that we can set up for your agents and ultimately partner with folks on. But let's give a listen here. This is our ElevenLabs agent we call L on our product documentation on our website.
Hey there, I'm Elle from ElevenLabs Support. How can I help you today?
Hey, Al, I was hoping you could help me with API documentation.
Absolutely, I can definitely help you with that. To give you the most relevant information, I'll direct you to our API documentation. You'll find a comprehensive introduction there, covering everything you need to get started with our API. Just a heads up, if you don't see a new tab or window pop up, you might need to allow pop-ups in your browser.
Got it, thank you. Okay, can you tell me about your API endpoints, specifically around text-to-speech, please?
Sure thing. For all the details on our text-to-speech API endpoints, I'll point you to our documentation. You'll find information on creating speech, streaming speech, and even getting speech with timing information there.
Okay, I got it. Actually, let's go to authentication, please. Can I learn more about that?
Of course, I can definitely help you with API authentication. I'll redirect you to the relevant section in our documentation.
All right, so you get the idea there, though, of what's possible to be able to navigate a website as well as, just talk to an agent when you're on the go. If tool calls are set up and you have the right voice experience and the right guardrails and partner, et cetera, there really is very few limitations on what you can do with being able to have voice as the future of a human-computer interface. So we have a lot of different, vertical deployments that I can talk more about, but would love to take some questions if there are any in the audience about voice AI, the history, what we've seen in the market, as well as some of our traction today and lessons across deployments. Please.
Does it do any sentiment analysis, or is it a third party?
Great question on sentiment. So what we do today, we have our own models on the transcription side. So it's really understanding what is being said. The how it's being said and full sentiment analysis, I haven't seen anyone really nail yet. I think that's a really hard research problem to solve. Transcription, actually, I thought that was a solved problem. Like, I've watched dub movies before, but there's a human in the loop with all of that. Word error rates across the board are in the 10 to 15% range, which is really bad if those words matter. And so what we found by using our own speech-to-text model, our ASR model, is we can really understand what is being said, and that helps with a lot of the sentiment is what are the words being said? Now, the emotion of what's being said, that's I think the harder research problem that many research teams, ours included, is working on. Thank you. Fantastic question.
So the current the hot research topic in the voice is native audio, meaning directly from voice to voice. And here you mentioned that you have not done that yet. Do you plan to do that, and what's your plan?
We do plan to do voice to voice. That is something our research team is looking hard into. You're right, we are using the cascade approach, right? The speech to text, LLM text to speech. We've found, especially in enterprise production deployments, it's so much more measurable where you can see, okay, which which part is failing, as well as keep it in control. Like your guardrails and reliability have just been way better with that cascading approach. But our research team is pushing hard on both approaches.
Okay,
Great
so
question.
you have probably some plan to do specialized tokenization of the voice to make that to be token somehow. Well, if you can share some thought, that would be great.
Yeah, TBD on parts of that are research priorities. In terms of tokenization, are you ultimately getting at like authentication from the voice itself?
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Please, sir.
So I have a two-part question. The first part is, how do you think about the roadmap as it relates to ElevenLabs expanding outside or into more domains that may be competitive to companies like Bland, Retail, Vappy? And then the second part, so that's one question. And the other question I was curious about is, how do you gain confidence between language to language performance in the sense of like, is the sentiment or word for word or translation effective? Or just help me get confidence on how you guys do that.
Great questions. Okay, so on the first one, yes, as I can show you here, ultimately we are a voice agent platform, and so we started with the base models underneath, and you're right, many of those great companies are using our voices, for text to speech, and then they're stitching everything together, right? So that's where we started in the research layer underneath, and in a lot of these deployments, we ultimately found there is so much complexity there, and we think we could add a lot of value with our audio expertise to be able to like do the full agent, because we're really still focused on audio, which has been helpful in terms of our focus. But I think, look, there's a lot of companies building agents these days. We think that audio expertise is really, lending some value there. And it's early stages, early innings here, and I think there's a rising tide, sure, but there's going to be a lot of winners in this space, and I like our chances. In terms of your second question, sorry, remind me again.
Translation accuracy.
Oh yeah, translation accuracy. Okay, so ultimately we're relying on the LLMs today to do the translation, and I think it just depends on which LLM, which use case that ultimately you're looking for in that voice switching. That's us to say, what is this language, and ultimately being able to switch and easily navigate a conversation. But in terms of the translation itself, that's what we're going to rely on the LLMs for. And they've been pretty good in like very deep vertical scenarios. Sometimes there's a miss, and that's kind of like the first area that we would look at on which LLM they're using specifically. Great questions. Please.
So when ElevenLabs, let's say, launches a new model with better quality, or let's say new capability like multilingual, so how do you convince your customers, like what's their process to take that new capability, or let's say even could be new voice type, do you find it to be hard to convince customers to do that upgrade, or is it straightforward?
So in terms of upgrading customers to a new model, first off, we don't want to mess with anything they have in production, right? Like that's great. It's more of, okay, can we up-level that experience with existing models? A lot of times people will have like multiple different projects with us. And so it's, okay, if we have a new model, what's that model really, really good at and differentiated on? And then we'll go talk to them about the most applicable use cases. Not messing with anything current, but really thinking through their next like 6 to 12 months and roadmap. And ultimately, it's like where to add value. Some customers maybe don't need the more expensive model or the new, faster model. It kind of depends on which model we're launching, and then we try to fit that to really our customers' needs as part of our approach.
Thank you. Really fascinating stuff. Maybe a two-part question also. What do you see as most exciting developments on the shopping assistance, kind of e-commerce, commerce use cases for voice agents? And beyond that, is that an exciting category? Which of these categories of the end agents you see as kind of the most thrilling to observe being built out and used?
Did you say e-commerce and cars? Was that the last part?
E-commerce or commerce. It doesn't need to
or
be
commerce. Got it.
Right.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah. In e-commerce shopping, I mean, I know I want to be able to just, push a button, call my local restaurant, do the takeout that I ordered a month ago, same order, plug and play, just like make it happen. And same with shopping, right? The idea, really, like voice agents today are way better at memory with all of the advancements in audio and LLM models, of course. So I see like what I just showed you on our website is like the documentation. This is all coming to a more web-friendly version of like being able to just order things. I think retailers are doing some small pilots today, but I think in the next 6 months in retail and elsewhere, you're gonna see a lot. I asked about cars because there's like, that's one of the most exciting spaces. I just think about bringing audio to hardware. Why can't you talk to Siri and have it do everything that you want to do? Why can't you talk to, your kids' toys, your cars, your devices in your house to be able to just like have a frictionless experience and not need to pull up a keypad or your phone or whatever? I think that's one area I'm really excited about, but there's a few others as well. Great question. Anyone over here, please?
Voice actor lobbying or regulations in place, how does ElevenLabs think about the opportunity to disrupt those entrenched players, and are those spaces you guys are thinking about?
Yeah, film, media, and entertainment, I mean, they produce some amazing content. Same with podcasters. Like, we work with a Mr. Beast, and I think the idea of, look, this isn't like a replacement thing. We can help amplify their content, where if Mr. Beast launches something in English, that's gonna do great. But that same content could be dubbed in different languages, and he can make 4 to 5x on what that initial video and that initial language is. I think the same is true for movies. We work with some of the major studios as well. But there definitely is some hesitancy in just obviously like respecting all the voice actor and the talent. But I think that the approach we've had is ultimately to be able to partner with them, as well as, look, we have this entire marketplace that is full of voice actors where they're getting a cut in every single time their voice is used. And so it's having a really high safety and security bar so that no one can use our technology to ultimately clone voices without permission, but then also partnering with the industry so that they see a rising tide. Like, some of these voice actors make a lot, and then even in their, in our platform, but then even in their regular day-to-day jobs, the idea of being able to expand the impact of your hard work, I think is definitely there with technology like this. Great question.